And welcome to Canvas Live. This is a Canvas Live event. Canvas Live sessions are presented by you, the community, Canvas community members or instructor employees, with a goal of helping Canvas users improve and enhance their learning and teaching across Canvas. With us today is Steve Simpson, and he is going to talk about how to coach metacognition, thinking about one's thinking, metacognition, using assignment feedback. And with that, I'll turn it over to Steve.
Well, thank you very much, Stephanie, and good afternoon and welcome everyone to the second of today's 3 Canvas Live sessions. Before I begin, please keep in mind that you can always access the calendar of Canvas Live events in the always active Canvas community. This presentation today is going to focus on how a teacher or an instructor can intentionally coach student metacognition and reflective thinking practices via the use of Canvas course assignments, and specifically the very easy to overlook comments field found there. Now, as an important note, while I'll be sharing my screen throughout this 25 to 30-minute presentation, I strongly recommend that you navigate to the public Canvas course in which all these materials have been placed for your synchronous and or asynchronous access today or in the coming weeks or months. So if you haven't already had a chance to do so, take a moment and open a new browser tab, pull up the Canvas Live event page for this presentation in the Canvas community, and there, both in the content body of the event description and down in the comments section, you'll find the URL to the course that I'm going to be working in. And the reason I'm providing you access to that course, it's going to give you the power, if you choose, to completely ignore me during this presentation window, if desired, of course, and work through the course materials at your desired pace and convenience. As you're going to see, there are some interactive opportunities and a couple of additional opportunities to share your thoughts on the topic and its potential application in your work. Finally, whether you listened and participated live or after the fact, your feedback on a course evaluation that's in that course is also going to be greatly appreciated by me. All right, with that out of the way, let me toggle over to that course. And I'm going to go ahead and pull it up in student view. And I'm going to be very thoughtful because Stephanie has reminded me about the delay between what I'm seeing and maybe what you're seeing. So just bear with me here for a second while this course is pulled up and also visible to you in student view. While I'm doing that, let me take a moment to just introduce myself to the audience out there, and I'll also review the session objectives. My name is Steve Simpson, as Stephanie said. I serve as the Digital Learning Specialist in Arlington Independent School District in North Texas. Arlington ISD is a district of over 60,000 students. We have over 4,000 teachers, and we are moving into next year, heading into our 3rd year of Canvas implementation, pre-K through 12. In those efforts, my responsibilities here in Arlington involve being the chief LMS administrator, our kind of Canvas lead trainer. I design some online learning courses that sometimes are Canvas specific and sometimes more broad. And then also kind of visioning our strategy for implementation, especially as it relates to blended learning. I see I'm monitoring the chat, and Elizabeth has said when she clicks on the link for the course, it just brings her back to the Canvas Live event page. Elizabeth, look a little bit further down in the event description. You're going to find a link that says, https arlington.instructure.com. So that's the link you want to click on to gain access to this course. And let me know if you're still unable to do so. I'm going to go ahead and click on modules in my course, as you guys certainly have the right to once you're in there. And I'm going to go ahead and click on the objective page. So once you see the modules yourself, go ahead and click on objectives. And if you're able to browse these things faster than up here in the YouTube stream, great. Let me review these with you. This is what we're going to try to achieve here in the next 20 or 25 minutes. I'm going to briefly talk about some of the research and really the fundamental reasons why metacognition is important at all levels with all types of learners. I'm going to remind you and just kind of highlight a couple tools within Canvas that provide you the ability to coach and respond to your students or your adult learners' reflections on their learning. going to give you the opportunity to pull some of the examples from what I am providing. I have basically a template of some metacognitive prompts that you're welcome to import or utilize for your own purposes. And then, as I said, we'll wrap things up. You'll give me some feedback, not only on an evaluation, but also it's going to be really cool to see what you guys see as a benefit or a possible application for what's going on here. And thanks to Stephanie for posting that course link in the YouTube chat for those of you that were having some difficulty pulling up or finding the correct link. So I'm going to pretty much navigate now through this course, and you can do the same there in your own browser tab if you prefer, by clicking next. And let's talk about metacognition here for a minute and why it might be something to really think about and prioritize in your own course environment. So what you see here on this Canvas page is an embedded H5P accordion interactive. And if you click on those accordion elements, those sections, you'll be able to kind of follow along. I'm not going to read this to you, obviously. But metacognition, as Stephanie suggested, is this idea of thinking about thinking. And if you think about that, no pun intended, it's critical to think about how we can begin to develop at the earliest grades, up through the middle grades, into high school and college, an individual's ability to think about their thinking processes. Because typically that kind of thinking relates to and gets really at the heart of success in lots of life endeavors, not just academic endeavors, but sport endeavors, right? Hobby endeavors, interpersonal relationships, work or career goals. All these things are heavily impacted by our own individual ability to identify and think about what works and what doesn't for us. So if you'll click in the second field, you'll notice that research has really told us that developing this ability to be reflective in your thinking and being metacognitive really helps to build problem-solving skills. As some of my colleagues in the community talk about frequently, it also is very much tied into this idea of growth mindset, self-efficacy, believing that you can actually have an impact on the outcomes in your life, and also self-awareness. So the more practice and the more intentional effort we make to get students thinking about things in a metacognitive way, we're not just helping them be successful in our course potentially, but also being successful actually for the rest of their lives and really whatever sphere or endeavor they're thinking critically about. So who is metacognition for? It's for everybody. Any learner is going to benefit from this idea that I'm going to be given a consistent and ongoing opportunity to be reflective in my practice, whether it's as a student, as a parent, or as an employee. And finally, can metacognition be taught? Absolutely. It's a habit of mind. And the more we, again, devote that time and intention, the more likely people will begin to develop their own intrinsic and internal ability to self-monitor and reflect on their thinking in order to basically see continuous improvement in all aspects of their life. So I'm going to leave that there, and let's get into the Canvas components here. But do note that at the bottom of this page, I have put in three really just nice articles that give a nice overview, summary of metacognition, and then actually give a bunch of examples for using metacognition in instructional environments. So I'm going to click next. Feel free to come along. And what I've done here, before we actually talk about the feedback loop that would be in place or could be facilitated through a Canvas course and the intention to be metacognitive with kids and coach that with them, students I should say, or even adult learners, I wanted to just show a couple examples of the different ways you could put prompts, ready metacognitive thinking prompts, into the Canvas course environment that you're working in. And I've got 4 examples here, basically of how it might look for a student. So these are snapshots taken in student view. Here are some examples of what it might look like if the prompts, these kind of metacognitive thinking prompts, were put into the assignment instructions, just text on the page. So you can see that the example I'm using has process type questions, product type options, and big picture options. And if you take a look at a couple of these questions, they're broad, they're open-ended, they assume positive intent, right? They're not yes or no type questions. So they hopefully lend themselves to student thinking at higher and deeper levels. For example, what aspect of this work proved most challenging? What specific strategies did you utilize to work through and overcome the challenge? So what this assignment, this mock assignment is suggesting is that a student, when they submit work in Canvas, are also going to submit an answer to one of these questions, it's their choice, along with their submission upload. You'll see an example of that here in a minute. Down below, here's another example of the same questions being provided in the Canvas assignment in a slightly different way. So what you'll see here is that the prompts are actually on a Word document that was uploaded to Canvas, to this assignment, and they can be force previewed using the box preview tool when you do a file upload onto a Canvas page or assignment or quiz or discussion and so on. A little further down, you'll notice that this third option just demonstrates how these questions could all reside on one dedicated Canvas page, and you could link students to that page whenever you wanted them to be able to return to and reflect on and consider which of those questions they want to choose. Finally, the last option basically just includes a cue to the students that's up in the course navigation menu, which I need to scroll up to see. There's actually a custom link that I've added here that's actually going to take students to a Google Doc where these thinking prompts, right, are found. So there's a variety of ways you as a teacher can give students access to these metacognitive thinking prompts, right? I would encourage you to standardize around a set of prompts and use those consistently in your classroom, whether in the face-to-face environment or blended in Canvas or fully online. Stick with the same set, and that way you can give students that kind of frequency of interaction with these same questions so that they become more fluent and literate in how they're thinking about their thinking in your course environment. I'm going to go ahead and click on next, and what you'll see when you go to the next page in this module is that for those of you that want a ready option to begin with, I've made this content page with these same questions available in Canvas Commons for your convenience. I've also uploaded the file here, so if you click on that link down below that says download the Microsoft Word version, you'll be able to do so successfully. And then if you click on the final link on the page, you'll actually be forced to make a copy of the Google Doc version into your own Google Drive. Obviously, the questions might need to be tailored depending on the age level or the grade or the focus of the course. And there's lots of different ways you could create your own set of metacognitive thinking prompts that will be most conducive and well aligned to the students that you work with on a daily basis. So what are the two key Canvas tools, now that you have the prompts in place, that are going to allow a student to give you their thinking, to report and reflect on to you as the teacher or the instructor what they're thinking about those questions? So what you'll see on this next page is I'm just calling attention to two fundamental Canvas features. And one of them, I believe, is somewhat overlooked. So what you're looking at here, where it says assignment submission, here's a snapshot from student view, is a file upload tab. And everyone's very quick to notice that, oh yes, a student can upload a file and submit it. However, the key is there's a field just below that says comments. And many folks I've found in just working with teachers, they're often aware this even exists. And students, being students, are quick to very quickly overlook it or bypass it. So this comment field is where you could coach proactively and on an ongoing basis, basically make it a requirement that students are submitting to you their feedback, not about the content assignment. This is not the assignment submission. This is the reflective feedback in response to one or more of those metacognitive thinking prompts. Once they key that in there and they click submit assignment, you're going to be able to see that as the teacher in SpeedGrader. And you'll be able to obviously then provide feedback to the student on an individual basis through the SpeedGrader tools, which are highlighted here at the bottom of the page. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm actually going to leave student view. I'm going to become the teacher in this course once more. And what I'm going to do is once I navigate to home, I'm going to pull up an example of what this looks like in SpeedGrader, because as the test student in this course, I have gone ahead and submitted actually an assignment along with a metacognitive thinking reflection. So let me go ahead and click on the assignment to-do notification. And what you guys are going to see is that I'm now in SpeedGrader with a test student submission. Let me give that a second to load for you. And now that you see that, you're seeing what I see as the teacher, obviously. This student did submit a set of files, right? This looks like it was PowerPoint, maybe. They've uploaded that. More importantly, for the purpose of this demonstration or presentation, is over here in the right-hand column, you're going to notice there is that comment, right? Mr. Simpson, I really found the process of finding the data for each type of device, listing the specs, and comparing each to be pretty enjoyable. I think that this means I'm kind of a geek when it comes to tech stuff, and it makes me realize I might want to learn more about how people get those jobs where they do device comparisons on websites and stuff. Are we going to learn more stuff like this? So what this student has done has really two things. The student's already been reflective, right? So that outcome right there, the opportunity that student was provided by having to think about one of those metacognitive questions has already added value to their experience, right? So that being the case, what it's also doing, it's cueing me, the teacher, as to exactly what I can begin to provide students feedback around. Like, why should I give them feedback about something that they're not already cued and primed to receive? Now with this information, I can use the SpeedGrader tools to provide students really specific feedback and examples. And I apologize for this phone ringing. I'm in an unusual environment today, and I'm just gonna wait for it to ring out because I can't figure out how to make it stop. I apologize. So anyway, this is where you can provide that student, right, the feedback, and the conversation can continue, because once the student is back in their course and they've received your feedback around, right, that reflective prompt, they're going to be able to see that, right, and the conversation can actually continue virtually in your Canvas course environment for as much time really as needed, or for as long as the conversation can continue to be productive. So that's the simple tool that you can use in the assignment functionality in Canvas to really make metacognitive thinking an ongoing practice, one, but also one in which the teacher or the instructor has a real voice in conversation with the student about those options. I'm going to skip now down to professional learning examples, because I don't want to leave out the idea that this isn't just for like students, you know, the people on your course roster or in your classroom. So on this page, and I'm back in student view, as you can see, I've just provided a couple quick examples of how I've been able to begin to utilize some reflective thinking prompts with intentionality with adult learners. I actually spend more time working with adults than I do with kids, much more time in my work here in Arlington. And I find that the ability to coach adults or professionals to submit those kind of options, give me their reflective feedback, it helps me, it cues me to what feedback I can give them that's going to be most aligned to where they're at. So if they express an intention to learn something more about a certain topic, I don't want to provide some kind of feedback that's not related to that at all. I want to go ahead and align my feedback as much as I can to what they're already identifying and sharing with me is a priority for them. So don't forget about the potential for this and all those professional learning environments that you guys no doubt work in as well, especially if you're a Canvas trainer or coach or administrator. I see Adrian has a question about custom navigation options. I would encourage you, Adrian, go to the guides and just keyword search custom course navigation menu, and you'll find a guide that explains how you can hide those things. I'm not aware that's an admin privilege, but it could be. I've not seen that before, but you might want to check with your admin as well. I think that's a very good question. Okay, guys, we have 10 minutes, and there's 3 interactive things I want to accomplish in that time. I'd really like everybody to quickly take a minute and go ahead and just check your own understanding with these 5 embedded questions. Double check, make sure that your thinking is kind of aligned with what's been presented so far. And we'll quickly move on to the next interactive component of this presentation. So again, I'm going to give you 60 seconds where I'm going to be quiet, if you can believe that. Man, silence is scary. Sometimes wait time is really hard. Okay, so I've clicked next. And I wanted to run through a couple other tips and suggestions that I thought of. But notice that at the bottom of this page, there's an embedded Padlet. So if you guys have already thought about a great idea for using metacognitive thinking prompts in your Canvas course environment, or other opportunities outside of a Canvas assignment where you think that might be possible, go ahead and start adding those to the Padlet. There's a plus button down on the bottom of the embedded Padlet. You can also just double click inside that thing and should be able to post your thoughts while I run through these bullet points. What if you're a second grade teacher, right? You can put these same prompts on your bulletin board in your classroom. So I would really encourage people to think about how, especially in a blended environment, your metacognitive thinking prompts should have a role in the traditional face-to-face work that's going on, but also a role in the Canvas course environment. So please don't limit yourself to just having students do this valuable thinking only when they're working in Canvas. Second thing is, if you expect it, you better model it. So I would encourage you to talk about metacognitive thinking, use those words even with young learners so they know what that word means, and then model your thinking out loud often, especially with the younger guys. Even the high school students need to hear it. Because everyone benefits from hearing an adult that has thinking processes in place, describing and walking through those ideas. I'd strongly urge you to talk about specifically how this idea of being metacognitive in your thinking practices really aligns with this idea of growth mindset. Don't forget to extend some of these discussions by having students share out sometimes what they're thinking. You could also have these kind of discussions taking place, of course, in a Canvas course discussion. Doesn't always have to be hidden away just between the teacher and student in an assignment. If you haven't investigated, the Canvas ePortfolio tool actually has a great potential for some long-term journaling. And one of those focuses, foci or focus of the journal itself could be reflecting on kind of the growing ability a student has to be thoughtful and metacognitive in their goal setting, in their growth mindset, in their practice. Finally, I'd really urge you to make sure your questions are well constructed, primarily because you want to assume students are doing these things, right? A closed-ended question that could end with the answer no wouldn't be a very good and thoughtful prompt to coach and encourage metacognitive thinking. So those are some of my tips and suggestions. Please feel free to populate some more here in this space, as I can see some of you are doing right now. This Padlet will be live. This course will be available for a long time. I don't really have any intention to shut it down, overnight, certainly. So hopefully, as people maybe come back to this topic again in the future, you might come back and see evidence of what some of your colleagues from around the country and maybe even the globe have added here as their thoughts. Okay, final thing I'd like you to do for me. If you click next, I'm curious. Oh, and some people have already beat me here. All right, self-paced learners. Kudos to you. Look, this is an embedded Padlet. When you have a public course that's set up to be public in the course settings in Canvas, you can't give a public user that hasn't logged into the course environment the ability to participate in a Canvas discussion, for example. So I found that embedding some web tools provides a similar type of opportunity for that interpersonal conversation, even when we're not all members of the same institution. So I'd be very curious to look back at this Padlet here in an hour's time or in a couple days to see what ideas you have now that you've seen this presentation. Hopefully you've given some intentional thought to how coaching towards metacognitive thinking practices with your students is important, how it can be done with Canvas, some of the opportunities or applications you see for it in your own work. So the more we can put here, obviously to the greater benefit to anyone who might stumble across this course in the future. And we're now down to the final minutes of this course. So let me real quickly just review our objectives, right? Feel free to continue to populate some ideas there if you are, but I'll go ahead and skip forward to our objectives. You'll also see the evaluation for this presentations on this page. The goal here was to give you guys a real general, obviously, opportunity to think about the importance of metacognition with students in instructional environments. Hopefully you feel like we've done that successfully. To remind you that there's some really easy to access Canvas functions and tools. Really think about that comment field for assignments. That's the key to the metacognitive kingdom. And it's so easy to use and coach students to use that tool. So the goal was to reorient you or to point that out to you if it was new to you, to make sure you were aware of it. To give you the opportunity to download, if you want, my examples, make them your own. And then finally, to give you the opportunity to share out your thinking and also to provide me some feedback here on this evaluation. So you should see an embedded Google form on this Canvas page. If you have the time and the willingness, please feel free to give me some feedback, which I'd really appreciate. That helps me improve my work going forward. Lastly, I want to just remind everybody as we wrap up now that you can always revisit the Canvas Live page to learn about upcoming events, and please consider signing up maybe to offer your own Canvas Live presentation or demo so that we can all benefit from your knowledge and expertise here in the community. Thanks very much for making the time out of your day to view and participate in this session. Please feel free to use my contact information, which was in that first module. Follow up with me if you have any questions, thoughts, or concerns. If not, and taking a real quick last look at the Canvas, the chat here, I don't see any real pressing questions. I'll come back and answer any questions that might be there just by typing rather than keeping people on the line. Hope everybody has a great afternoon. And as always, I hope everyone keeps learning. Take care, everyone.